You walk into an auto parts store and ask for a simple, inexpensive oil filter. The seller guarantees that it fits your car perfectly, and you leave feeling relieved, thinking you saved a few dollars. But what almost no one tells you. The problem is that some brands of oil filters are literally destroying engines from the inside, without making a sound, without any lights coming on in the dashboard, without giving any warning. The oil passes through, but the dirt too. And when the problem arises, it's no longer just an oil change. It's a correction. It's an engine knocking. That's a loss of thousands of dollars. And the worst part, these brands continue to be sold every day, in workshops, discount stores, and even dealerships. Today, I'm going to show you, what are the 7 oil filter brands that experienced mechanics avoid using in their own cars? The hidden flaws they have. And how can you identify it in seconds? If the filter they put on your engine is safe, or a ticking time bomb. If you drive or you intend to keep your car for more than 2 years, this video could literally save your vehicle's engine. 1. Fram Extra Guard Line, the budget versions. Fram is probably the best-known oil filter brand on the market, found in practically every store, quick repair shop, and oil change station, and that's precisely why many people trust it without question. The problem begins when we talk specifically about the Extra Guard line, which is the cheapest and best-selling version of the brand. In workshop tests and internal cutaways, this filter usually presents a very simple construction, with internal cardboard caps instead of metal, weak glue holding the filter element, and a smaller filtering area than most competitors. This means that it saturates faster, loses efficiency in a short time, and in many cases begins to allow fine metallic particles that should be retained to pass through. Another critical point is the check valve, which in several models does not seal correctly, allowing oil to drain back into the crankcase when the car is turned off, causing the engine to run practically dry for a few seconds on the next start. In everyday use, you don't notice anything abnormal. The car continues to run. No warning lights come on, but internally, wear begins to accumulate with each oil change. That's why many mechanics avoid this specific Fram line for engines that are intended to last for many years, making it clear that the premium versions from the brand itself are another story. But the Extra Guard is one of those filters that seems like a saving today and becomes a silent loss tomorrow. 2. STP Economic Lines. STP is another extremely popular brand, especially in quick oil changes and high-volume automotive centers, and that's precisely why it frequently appears in engines that arrive with premature wear. In STP's economy lines, the main problem lies in the quality of the filter paper and manufacturing control. In DRChapart, several internal cuts made in workshops. The filter material appears thinner, with poorly glued folds and a smaller filtering area than ideal for normal oil change intervals. This causes the filter to saturate very quickly and rapidly enter bypass mode, which is when the oil passes through practically without filtering anything. Another delicate point is the internal valve, which in many models opens before the correct time, allowing particles to circulate freely through the engine even with the filter appearing new. The most dangerous thing is that externally the filter looks perfect, it doesn't leak, it doesn't clog, it doesn't generate any immediate symptoms, but inside the engine is receiving contaminated oil for thousands of kilometers. That's why many mechanics use STP only in emergency situations or in cars they don't intend to keep for a long time, avoiding these economy lines when the goal is to preserve the engine for many years. 3. Autolite, old filters/generic lines. Autolite is a traditional and highly respected brand when it comes to spark plugs, but when we delve into the realm of oil filters, especially older and generic lines, the story changes considerably. In several engines that arrived with uneven wear, we began to find a pattern. Filters with a very small filtering area, low-density paper, and an internal structure that is too simplified for modern engines. This means the filter may work initially, but it quickly loses efficiency, allowing fine particles to pass through, which are precisely the most dangerous for bearings, camshafts, and oil pumps. Another recurring problem is the low retention capacity, which causes the filter to saturate too early and operate in bypass mode for much of the time without the driver noticing. In practice, the engine continues to run normally, but it is being lubricated with increasingly contaminated oil with each cycle. Therefore, many mechanics trust Autolite for spark plugs but avoid their generic. Filters. Especially in newer or high-precision engines where any filtration failure silently and irreversibly accelerates wear. 4. Proline/MicroGuard. Proline and MicroGuard are classic examples of so-called house brand filters, which are manufactured for large auto parts chains focusing primarily on price and volume, not performance. The problem with these lines is not only their simple construction, but mainly the lack of standardization. In some models, the filter even presents acceptable quality, but in others, the difference is enormous, with low-density filter paper, irregular bonding, and inconsistent internal valves. In the workshop, this appears as a dangerous pattern: two filters that look identical on the outside but are completely different on the inside. Some seal well, others allow dirty oil to return to the engine, and others bypass too early. This type of variation is extremely harmful to modern engines, which depend on stable pressure and constant filtration. The driver never notices anything in daily use, but when the engine starts to exhibit noise, pressure drops, or unexplained oil consumption, these filters often appear in the maintenance history. That's why many mechanics avoid generic brands for engines they want to preserve, because with this type of product, you don't know exactly what you're putting into your engine with each change. 5. Purolator, old lines and problematic models. Purolator is a traditional brand with decades of presence in the market, and precisely for that reason, many people trust it without question. The problem appears mainly in some older lines and in certain models that became known in workshops for a specific and very dangerous defect: the internal rupture of the filter paper. In several cuts of used filters, what is found is the filter element torn in the center, allowing the oil to pass through practically unfiltered during a large part of the oil change interval. The most critical thing is that this happens without causing clogging, without external leakage, and without any visible sign for the driver. The valve continues to function. The pressure remains apparently normal, but the engine is receiving contaminated oil directly in the bearings, camshaft, and bushings. This type of failure is especially common in engines that operate at higher pressure or high revolutions, where the less resistant paper simply cannot withstand the continuous stress. Therefore, despite the brand's historically good reputation, many experienced mechanics have begun to avoid these specific Purolator lines, opting instead for newer versions or brands with more robust internal construction when the goal is maximum long-term protection. 6. K&N, some specific models. K&N is a well-known premium brand, strongly associated with performance and tuning, and that's precisely why this next part often surprises many people. The problem isn't with the brand as a whole, but with some specific oil filter models that became infamous in workshops for a rather serious defect: leakage and loss of pressure through the filter's external screw itself. This system, designed to facilitate removal in certain batches, presented sealing failures at high pressures, micro cracks in the weld, and deformation of the base over time. In several cases, the engine began to exhibit intermittent pressure drops, small oil leaks, and in more serious situations, insufficient lubrication at higher RPMs. The most dangerous aspect is that many of these failures don't generate visible leaks on the ground, only a gradual loss of pressure that accelerates internal wear without the driver noticing. There were even silent recalls and design updates in some models, which shows that the problem really existed. Therefore, despite K&N's excellent reputation for air filters, many mechanics have started to avoid these specific oil filters, especially in engines used daily, reserving this type of product only for very controlled applications or replacing them with brands with a more stable lubrication history. 7. Bosch, older economic lines. Bosch is one of the most respected brands in the automotive industry, synonymous with quality in sensors, injection systems, and electrical systems, and precisely for this reason, almost no one imagines that some of its oil filters have been a cause for concern in workshops. The problem appears mainly in older, more economical lines, manufactured by third parties to serve low-cost markets. In several of these models, the internal construction is too simplified for current standards, with lower density filter paper, a reduced filtering area, and check valves that do not seal with the necessary precision. This causes the filter to lose efficiency quickly and allows dirty oil to return to the engine after each shutdown. In modern engines, which operate with very tight tolerances, this small detail accelerates wear on the camshaft, tappets, and bearings without generating any immediate symptoms. The driver continues driving normally, trusting the brand name, while internally the engine suffers a slow process of contamination. Therefore, many mechanics warn that in the case of Bosch, not all lines deliver the same level of protection, and that these older, more economical versions should be avoided when the goal is maximum long-term engine durability. Now, so you're not left with nothing but fear and no solution, let's talk about the brands that consistently deliver what an oil filter really needs to deliver. Real long-term protection. Mann-Filterer is a world leader in filtration and an original supplier to several European automakers. Its key differentiator lies in its highly controlled internal construction, high-density filter paper, large retention area, and extremely precise valves. Internally, these filters maintain their structure intact even after long periods of use, rarely bypass prematurely, and trap very fine particles that pass straight through cheaper filters. It's the type of filter many mechanics use in their own cars when they want maximum durability. Mahle, also known as Connect in some markets, follows the same philosophy of original equipment quality. These filters typically have excellent sealing, uniform filter paper, and very reliable check valves, preventing that critical dry start situation after the car has been stationary. In modern engines that operate with tight tolerances, Mahle is often chosen because it maintains stable pressure and consistent filtration throughout the entire change interval. Wix and its Napa Gold line are extremely respected in the North American market, especially in specialized workshops. The key strength here is the large filtration area and the robustness of the internal construction. These filters take much longer to saturate, withstand high pressures well, and maintain efficiency for longer, which is ideal for those who perform complete filter changes or drive in more severe conditions. Not surprisingly, they are a constant presence in high-mileage engines that continue to run smoothly for many years. Ultimately, these brands have something in common that makes all the difference: well-designed interiors, rigorous quality control, and a total focus on protection, not price. And when it comes to the engine, this difference, invisible on the outside, is exactly what separates a car that surpasses 300,000 kilometers from one that starts causing headaches very early on. If you look closely, all the brands I mentioned share a common pattern when they cause problems. Simple means simplified internal construction, small filtering area, low-quality valve, and a total focus on reducing costs. It's not a matter of famous or unknown name, it's a matter of internal design. And here's the golden rule that practically every experienced mechanic silently follows. Never choose the cheapest oil filter on the shelf and never rely solely on the brand name. What protects your engine is not the label, but the quality of the filter paper, the correct valve, and the exact compatibility with your engine. If you follow this simple rule, you'll eliminate more than 80% of the risk of premature wear just from oil changes. If this type of information helps you save thousands of dollars on maintenance in the future, then you're in the right place. Here I show you exactly what nobody explains in workshops, auto parts stores, or dealerships, always focused on protecting your engine and your wallet. In the next videos, I'll reveal which filters are most reliable for each type of engine, which oils are really worth it, and the most common mistakes that are destroying modern cars without owners realizing it. So if you want to keep your car running perfectly for many years, subscribe to the channel and follow the upcoming alerts, because this information can make all the difference in the lifespan of your engine.